Hello, my friends. Welcome back for another reading lesson. This is technically session 4, but this is our third reading lesson, and it is titled Retelling and Synthesizing to Cement Comprehension. So we're really going to be talking about how we can make our comprehension, our understanding of the text a little bit better. Last year, I know that you learned that strong readers often pause in the middle of reading to think back on their book, almost retelling it in their mind's eye. Those lessons weren't just for last year. When you've got your nose in a book, you probably feel like there's so much happening that things are moving so fast that you can't keep up and you need to pause and orient yourself. I want to remind you that readers often look back in their books to cement their comprehension. You already know how to do a chronological retelling or telling the whole timeline of events in order. Today, I want to teach you that you can also pause to synthesize. To do this, you still retell, but just do the part of the book that you just read. Then you go back and summarize the earlier parts of the book and relate it to just that part. So the teaching point in like a nice friendlier way of saying it is I can check my comprehension by doing a synthesis retelling summarizing the part of the book you just read and how it relates to the backstory. That doesn't make any sense. Let's try one more time. Let's really think about it. I can check my comprehension by doing a synthesis retelling, summarizing the part of the book you just read and how it relates back to the story. So basically what they're saying is you stop after a certain point, you retell what you just read to yourself, you summarize it for yourself, only the part you just read, and then using that summary, you think back on how it relates to what you just, or what else happened in your story. Okay. Let's start by retelling a little bit of what we have read of The Tiger Rising. As you'll recall from last year, the first way is to make a timeline of it chronologically. So you start at the beginning of the story and take big steps through it, telling only the important parts while keeping the whole retelling short. So when we do this, we think back about what has going on in the story, The Tiger Rising. So first, Rob sees the tiger. Next, he's waiting for the bus. Then he gets picked on by Billy and Norton Threemonger on the bus. Then he meets Sistine. They go to school and Sistine introduces herself to the class. Rob then goes to the principal's office and he finds out he doesn't have to come to school anymore because of his legs. Then he goes to lunch because he kind of just like floats through the rest of the day. He goes to lunch and he sees Sistine getting in a fight with all of the students. And then he stands up for Sistine and asks them to stop, which is very out of character for him. Next, they take the bus home. He and Sistine are riding the bus together, and she tells him that she wishes she could catch what he has on his legs because for some reason Rob really wants to talk to her, so he talks to her and tells her about what's going on in his life. And then the next chapter, he talks to his father and shows him the note. His father says, I guess you can be out of school for a couple of days, but what's on your legs is not contagious. So that's kind of where we ended up at the end of this last chapter. So we're going to continue reading some more of the book, but that's where we are right now, okay? So now let's try a synthesis retelling. You retell a part of the text that you just read while reaching back to earlier parts that are related to what you need. So for example, we'll talk about chapter 6. Rob went through the school day happily, excited he was going to be free from school for a while. At lunchtime, he avoided the cafeteria because that's where Billy and Norton are. Oh, I know why. Those are the boys who are bullying him, right? We have to think back, like, why is he avoiding specifically those boys? We have to remember those are the ones who were bullying him on the bus. Okay. Rob is sitting on the bench when suddenly the doors swing open and Sistine walks out, followed by a crowd. He wants to say something at first, but he doesn't. I remember he also didn't talk and stick up for himself when he was being bullied earlier, too. So he watches Sistine turn back to the crowd and start fighting. And you know what? That kind of fits what she did earlier with the story. Earlier in the story on the bus, when Billy and Norton were kind of like starting in on her, she like gave it right back to them. She said, well, at least that's because I have nice clothes. You know, she wasn't about to take it lying down like Rob does. Okay. So let's think about it. In chapter 6, as Sistine fights all the kid, Rob stood up and surprised himself by shouting at them. How is this important to what else we've read? Let's think about it. Earlier in the story, Rob doesn't stand up for himself. So it's kind of weird that he's standing up for this person he doesn't really know. It's against his character or what we know of his character so far. That makes it important and kind of surprising. And it helps us think about how Rob is becoming different as the chapters go on. As of right now, this book has only taken place, what we've read has only taken place over a morning, right? It up through chapter 6, he sees the tiger, he goes on the bus, he gets to school, he goes to lunch. We're at lunchtime right now. So it hasn't even been a full day of school, but he's already changing. He's becoming different. He's talking, he's yelling, he's standing up for somebody. Okay. So remember that when there's so much happening in your book that you want to orient yourself, when the story is moving so fast that you can't keep up, that's a great time to pause and think. Okay. You might want to retell what's going on to yourself or a friend or even your dog, whoever's around you. Retell it just for a way for you to talk it out. And think about what you read as it connects to things that happened earlier in the story too. Don't just retell what you read. Also think about how it is important to what you know about the characters and the setting and the plot and all of that stuff. Okay. When you do that, it really helps you understand what's going on in the story. And the decision about how and when you stop and retell depends on you. When you're reading today, your goal is to read first. I have it says a Google Doc, but I have a slide for you to fill out. One part of it is just summarize what you read today. And the other part of it is thinking about how that summary, what happened in what you read today, connects back to what you read previously. Okay. And that's pretty much it for today for reading. Please use that Google slide. That is your assignment. You should summarize what you read. If you read, so you need to read for 30 minutes, summarize what you read, and then see how it connects back to whatever else you have been reading earlier in this book. If you have just started a new book, make predictions instead. Okay. All right, my friends, that is it for this reading lesson. I will see you later. Bye.